May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. And I am Scott, your host, and a man who thinks the only people who should be anti-police are criminals. Criminals actually have been anti-police for a very long time, with good reason, because police stop criminals from committing crimes. And so that's why there's sort of always been sort of cops and robbers at each other, that sort of thing. We don't even know where Paul B is these days. I watched a high-speed chase that went through the city of San Diego, and I thought for just quite a moment, I was like, Paul? Could that be you? Are you? Nah, yeah, I'm sure Paul's fine. Paul's fine. Big shout out to Paul producing the show remotely as we're still in, some semblance of uncertain times. I'm not even sure where we are. But anyway, who am I? What do I do? How do you reach me? I am a marketing consultant, and I run a public relations and marketing firm in Orange County, California called Robertson Communications. I'm also a certified story brand guide. Means I can create better brand stories, website wireframes, sales copy, PR, stuff like that for clients. Now, you guys are smart because you tuned into a really good one. This one is episode 161 of the big program, and I call it I call it marketing's order of operations. It's been something I've been thinking about for a while. Math was not my favorite subject, and mainly because you can't really BS your way through math, right? There's a process, there's an order to it. There isn't any room for improvisation or just, sort of the softer skills that make you good at PR and marketing. Well, after studying thousands of marketing campaigns, and, both B2B, B2C, all that kind of stuff, I can tell you there's a definite order of operations in marketing too. So we're going to go through that, talk about why it's important, talk about why the order of doing things is important. And we'll still have time to hit who's winning and losing. And I'll give you some tips for your own marketing operations in segment 3. But you guys tuned into another, what I will cautiously call a semi-entertaining episode of the program today. Excited to be with you here today. Let's dig right into it. So let's talk about the order of marketing operations. So why is it important? So in math, it's the only way to get the answer. If you don't follow the right order of operations, your final answer will be wrong, right? It tells you to perform, multiplication and division first, working from left to right before doing addition and subtraction, and then you can continue to perform multiplication and division. There's all sorts of rules in math, right? I mean, remember the one, I said I was bad at math, but I do remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, right? There is an order of how you do things, and that little device was something to help you kind of remember what to do first, because if you don't know what to do first, you can create a big mess. And what I've noticed is there's a huge parallel between math and order of operations and marketing and order of operations. Now, can you be successful, not following the right order? I definitely do think it's possible. I think whereas in math, you're definitely going to get the wrong answer. I think in marketing, there are enough soft skills, there are enough soft ways that you can still, there's a lot of paths to the finish line in marketing. But, I would highly advise following the order of operations, because it's just a smarter thing to do. So let's talk about what it is. I call it MDC. It doesn't have a cute, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally kind of thing, but I call it MDC. And M is for messaging. We want our messaging first, always. It should be clear. It should be strong. It should be simple. It should be caveman simple. Don Miller, author of Building a Story Brand, says that someone should come to your website and a caveman should be able to determine what you do and how it solves their problem. And if a caveman can't figure it out, then you need to go back to the drawing board and make your website what he calls caveman simple. And I agree with that. I think that a lot of times in marketing, we kind of do this assumptive knowledge thing where we think we're just assuming that people are on the same page that we are with what we're doing. And so then we decide to kind of get clever with it. And when you get clever with that, it's a risk. The risk is you're going to alienate the audience. They're not going to understand what the hell you're talking about. So in StoryBrand, we talk about having, a message that's all about them. They're the hero of the story, right? We position ourselves as the guide to their story. And then we show how they're going to get what they want. And they're going to transform from, 80-pound weakling to muscle-bound, awesome guy that gets all the girls, that kind of thing in one scenario. So, messaging's real important. And it's really important that you do it first. It has to come first. It's like building a house, right? Messaging is the concrete slab. It is the foundation on which everything else is built. If you do anything else without having the messaging, you run the risk of having to tear down everything that you already had to do and drill in and destroy the concrete and re-pour it and start over. It's foundational stuff. It must come first. Some people come to me and say, "Oh, well, we're going to launch this marketing thing, and then we'll come back and we'll do messaging later." No, you're not. You're not, because you might, but what you mean is that all the stuff that you're going to do from that point until you revisit messaging could potentially be wrong, and could potentially be that you just built a sun porch on a house that has no foundation. Which you don't want to do. I'm no Bob Vila, but I'm just saying. So messaging first, clear, strong, simple. Next, we move to design. Design, and that's all your visuals, your color choice, your corporate ID, everything that you're going to do that is going to kind of paint a picture of what your brand is going to represent in the marketplace. Now, I always use designers that understand order of operations and understand branding, because I can inform their design in such a way. I can go to one of my designers and I can say, okay, here's the emotion that we're going for is, kind of an ego-driven emotion about, how great this person is, and this is the problem that they're trying to solve, and then they can make their color selection based on that. For example, I'll give you an example. I did a project with a local nonprofit called Good Stuff Coffee. For every bag of coffee that you buy, they help at-risk former foster youth by giving them a job and giving them work and really just improving the quality of their lives. Great company. I did all the branding for it. We worked on the messaging. Before we did any sort of design, we had a message, and our message was, Good Stuff Coffee leaves a great taste in your soul. And we want to talk about the idea of the coffee is great tasting, but it also allows you to do to feel good about just the world, and feel good about something that you've done in the world, and that's what we're trying to do. So you can see every part of the brand. So from the color choice that we used in that, we used these softer colors that were more like coffee-like kind of colors. If you have messaging, it informs design. It informs great design. And if the designer tries to make up messaging on their own, they better be good at it, because if they get it wrong, you're going to have the prettiest thing that doesn't work in the history of paying for pretty things that don't work. So don't do that. I always use designers that understand that in that phase of the process, we have to, the design must be informed by the messaging, so that the two things work together and there's a strategy behind it. Same thing with a local artificial intelligence startup that I work with, T2H2O, which is designing some artificial intelligence tools to help city water managers make better decisions about buying and selling water. right? So we had a message that said artificial intelligence for real water heroes. And then we wanted to show that it was that kind of combination between artificial and real, how the artificial technology benefits the real thing that we want to talk about, which is why the city water managers were heroes, which is why this is sort of an unsung hero part of the job. That if they didn't, if all of them didn't show up for their jobs, we'd have a real serious situation on our hands society wise. So really, powerful stuff. And as I mentioned, the design of that, is informed by the messaging. Those if we wouldn't have done messaging first, we wouldn't have come up with the same design. It wouldn't have been as strong. It wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have, it just impacts everything is a good way to say it. So number 2 is design. And then number 3 is your collateral creation. You've got a messaging platform, you've got your corporate ID and your basic design sort of done. Now you can start to go crazy on your collateral. You start creating copy for your website. That's when you work on your website. That's when you work on your brochure. That's when you work on your PDFs, your press releases, your videos, your social media channels, all of it. MDC, messaging, design, collateral. If you do it wrong, most companies start with design. So, and 9 times out of 10, when I go into one of these companies and they say, oh, marketing just isn't working. And I'm like, well, how'd you come up with the brand? And they say, oh, well, we had a designer and they named the company and they just kind of came up with it. Well, that's why it sucks, because designers aren't trained to be good at words. Being good at words is not the same as being good at pictures. I've met some designers that are okay with words, but they're not at my level with words. You must, you understand the levels that you're talking about, of the skill level that you're talking about. And by the same token, I'm not great at the stuff that they do either. That's how we do it. So, a lot of companies, though, they'll start with design. I'll go to a startup and they say, yeah, we already have a logo. And I ask my very telling question, okay, what emotion did you base the brand on? And then they kind of stutter for a minute and they can't answer the question. They're like, we think it's based on blah, blah, blah. It's like, you don't know. You didn't think about it. You didn't work on it. You built the second floor of the house before there was a foundation. That's what that looks like. I see it all the time. I see it every week. Every week I see some prospect comes in and says, marketing isn't working. Why? And I say, it's the message. They, how do you know? I say, because I've done this thousands of times. That's why I know, like I said, most companies start with design, then they move to collateral creation, and they just skip the messaging step altogether. Very, very dangerous. You can't answer questions about why you did what you did. You don't have the words to create what you need to create, in terms of, storytelling on your blogs and storytelling in your social media. It is not wise to skip the messaging step. It is absolutely not wise. If you come away with one thing from this show, it should definitely be that. Really, really important. And there, like I said, there is a definite order of these operations. So what's the order again? Just one more time, and we're going to come back in segment 3. I'm going to give you some tips for your own marketing operations. But the order again is messaging first, design second, collateral third. Right? Okay. Just, for those 3 steps. Now, there are other steps in the order of operations for marketing, but that will get you going. And those are the most important things. And right now, you're listening to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media. Come on back in segment 2. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing this week. See you in a minute. Hey, happy Friday, everybody. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk and marketing talk today. That's what I'm talking about. I'm still Scott. I'm your host. And today we're talking about the order of marketing operations. And here we are in segment 2. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing this week. And oh, my word, so much to talk about. My goodness. So let's dig right into it. First of all, did you know that LinkedIn is doing live streaming now? Or they're getting ready to start, actually. So while people have been streaming live on Facebook and Instagram since 2016, LinkedIn, which is owned by Microsoft, everybody knows that, right, has recently decided to join the live streaming platforms. So this year, they launched LinkedIn Live to a few individual users, and then it will start to be available on your business pages. So anybody will be able to stream live, from their business page. Right now you could you could easily just record a video and pop it up on your business page and that kind of thing. But LinkedIn Live is kind of interesting, right? It's interesting because it's like what we're doing here on Periscope, right? It's sort of free form. There's not necessarily a perfect script. It's not a perfect polished video. It's going to be more about thought leadership and that sort of thing. So I think it's interesting. I think it's something to keep in mind. And there's been several launches. You should check out. There's a story in where's that story? It's the marketing blog for HubSpot. So blog.hubspot.com has a story about LinkedIn Live. And they talked about some of these examples. I don't have time to get into all of them, but they talk about some of the things that that companies have launched using LinkedIn Live. Vimeo's Working Lunch project that I think we talked about on this show earlier this year, that was launched via LinkedIn Live. MIT did its commencement ceremonies on LinkedIn Live. Let's see. Thrive Global's did an Ask Me Anything thing with Ariana Huffington, which is kind of interesting. It's what's interesting to me is Vimeo is a streaming platform, right? So they use LinkedIn Live to talk about the working side of their thing, and they could easily have done that on Vimeo. They are Vimeo. They could have done it on Vimeo, but they decided to do it, like I said, on LinkedIn Live. Something to keep in mind. I definitely think it's winning. I definitely think it's winning for LinkedIn. LinkedIn. So far, Microsoft hasn't really screwed it up yet, so we'll have to see if they're planning to do it. Oh man! So let's talk about protests and brands, shall we? So. George Floyd was killed by the police on May the 25th. And really since that time, these protests, these Black Lives Matter protests have swept most of the country. There's a survey that came out about brands and what they should do that I thought had some interesting data to it. It basically said in a civic science survey, it said only 20% said it was, quote unquote, very appropriate for companies to publicly engage with social issues. Other respondents gave qualified answers like it depends on the issue, 36%. Others said it was somewhat appropriate, 16%, while the remaining 28% said it was not at all appropriate. So you got a third of the population that says it's not at all appropriate for brands to be weighing in on social issues. Interesting, right? To me, again, I fall in this is the consultant answer to everything. I realize that, but it falls on the it depends side of things. To me, it depends on the issue. It depends on your message, on your brand, where you stand. Is this something that it's important to you and your CEO to, like Taylor Guitars always talks about environmentalism and preserving wood and preserving wood. It's really important to them. They talk about it all the time. It's written in their DNA. If they started talking about child abuse or something that doesn't have anything to do with guitars, unless parents are smacking kids in the head with the guitar, it's not them, right? They may have an opinion. They may have an opinion at a cocktail party. Their principals may say we may have an opinion on a social issue or not. But if it's not you, then why are you saying it? If it doesn't match with your brand, then why would you be talking about it? And I think companies get into trouble with this Black Lives Matter stuff too, because you got to realize the Black Lives Matter folks are burning down businesses. They're burning down businesses. They're killing police officers. They're doing really bad stuff that we used to call crime back a long time ago. And when you engage in crime, and I don't care how pissed off you are. I mean, if you're, I don't care who you're upset with, what generation you're upset with or whatever, crime is not justified by anger. It is not, ever. You ever see somebody say, well, Your Honor, yeah, he murdered that guy, but man, that guy really pissed him off, honestly. And they'd say, murder, bye-bye, have fun in prison, good luck. Our legal system does not take into account your feelings. Your feelings don't matter to the legal system. And they don't matter when you're committing crimes either. You know, when you're committing crimes, you officially gave up your right to protest. I protested. I'm a first-time protester. Hey, I'm Scott. I'm for a first-time protester. I protested over in Huntington Beach when they shut down when the economy was shut down and Gavin Newsom kept it closed for what I certainly believe to be political reasons. I went there and said, these businesses should be open. This is crap. This should, and I've said that on the air, and I've said it on social media, and I'll say it to anybody, and anybody who wants to challenge me, bring it. Because I absolutely believe that this economy should have been open sooner. There are not enough cases to justify this. There's not enough hospitalization to justify this. All the stuff they said about the virus was wrong. It's just, that's just me. So I went to protest. Now, our protest was a lot of horns honking and people saying, yeah, Gavin Newsom sucks. He does. That's a scientific fact by this point. So, it's like, we protested peacefully. We were high-fiving officers of the law. They had to keep people off the beach at that point because that stupid rule was in place or whatever. But we had a very peaceful protest. Now, if we would have started turning cars over and lighting things on fire and stealing crap, then suddenly our message loses weight because now you're just a bunch of criminals. And what do we do with criminals? What do we have to do with criminals is a much better thing. So I would just say, you got to be careful with Black Lives Matter, and you got to be careful too how they're funded, because they're funded by some people that don't want to see this country do very well, right? So if you align your brand with their brand, you could have really big problems on your hand when that information starts to come to light. I wouldn't recommend it. Staying on that, Starbucks had a strong position, and they said, look, we're not going to support any of our baristas or anybody wearing anything on their uniforms that, celebrate Black Lives Matter and that kind of thing. No T-shirts, no pins, no nothing like that, which is surprising, because Starbucks and all, pretty liberal company. So, then they had this position where they said, we're not going to let you do it. Then they just reversed the position earlier today, Friday. And now they said that the baristas can wear Black Lives Matter T-shirts, pins, that kind of stuff. Whatever pieces of flair they want to put on their uniform, in support of that is fine. Now, to me, this is good, but you need to make it for all things, right? It can't just be about these criminals that are tearing up our cities. It needs to be about, whatever issue the barista cares about. It could be about, preserving wood in the rainforest for guitars. It could be about, any number of things. It could be about, climate change. It could be about, whatever else. It can't just be about this one protest. Otherwise, it just looks like pandering. I say losing for Starbucks for reversing your position, by the way, too. Makes you look weak. Reminds me of that a few years ago, 8 years ago, when your director of marketing communications, you guys were going to do that thing where let's have an open, honest conversation about race in the line at Starbucks. And everybody, said, no, the lines are too long and we don't want to do that in the Starbucks and that kind of thing. And then the director of marketing erased all the tweets that he said. And then everybody posted all the tweets before he the screenshots. That's why you don't erase tweets, by the way. Somebody took a screenshot of it and they're waiting for you to get cold feet and pull out. They're waiting. Don't ever do that. If you ever hear from somebody that says erase your tweets and edit your tweets and that, remember, there are people out there who have taken a screenshot of what you said before. They will put that next to what you said after, and you will look like a horse's ass when that is finished. Just so you know. That's the plan, by the way. That's 100% of the plan. So let's keep it going on activists. There's a cartoon that features a cartoon dog that's a police officer called Chase. It's a cartoon called Paw Patrol. And activists are saying, well, we can't have this cartoon anymore because it shows the police officer as a good dog, dog, I guess. And so they're upset, and so they're calling for Nickelodeon to remove Paw Patrol, which is about it's a cute show that really glorifies all first responders. There's like a dog firefighter, there's a dog doctor, there's a patrol of animals that help people. And then Paw Patrol was just like, just insane. Paw Patrol is just, remember when we used to have real problems? Remember that? I remember when Paw Patrol wasn't among them? I mean, that's one of the single stupidest things I've ever heard of in my entire life. It's a cartoon dog. And you don't, and what are you saying? I mean, if you're saying we're going to remove the dog from there, we're saying that all police are bad. All police are not bad. The police in Minneapolis that took George Floyd's life, yeah, they're bad. They're in custody. Are we done now? I mean, it's the whole thing is so dumb. It's so dumb. And the Paw Patrol thing is really dumb. Is exceptionally stupid. And I hope that Nickelodeon doesn't bow to the pressure on that. I hope that Nickelodeon says, look, it's a show about a cartoon dog. If you're upset about a cartoon dog, then, go find another show about a cartoon dog. Have your kids watch something else. Go watch Elmo. That's shot in New York. There's a bunch of liberals that do that. That's got a bunch of liberal and left narrative in it. Go enjoy Sesame Street. That's what I'd say. All right. Also on the protest front, Band-Aid brand bandages has expanded its product line to include bandages that match different skin tone colors to embrace, quote unquote, embrace the beauty of diverse skin. Very nice. Band-Aids were created in 1921. Did you know that? 1921 with a soft pink flesh color. Amid nationwide protests over the death of George Floyd, the company decided to make a change, and they said, we stand in solidarity, yada, yada. We're launching a range of bandages in light, medium, and deep shades of brown and black skin tones to embrace the beauty of diverse skin. Okay. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about Band-Aids. So I use SpongeBob SquarePants Band-Aids, and they're yellow, and they don't match my skin. It would be a shame if they did. It would be kind of funky if they all of a sudden started matching. But they don't, because they're like a bright neon yellow, like a SpongeBob head yellow. And so, yeah. I don't know. I guess it'd be easy to see this as losing. I could see people saying, oh, Scott, this is losing. This is pandering. This is too little, too late, whatever. But here's the thing. If you're Band-Aid brand, you've gone through every licensed product on the planet. You have Avengers Band-Aids. You have every superhero known to mankind. You have, My Little Pony Band-Aids. You have SpongeBob SquarePants Band-Aids. You have an entire shelf full of different sizes, different colors. But your product development cycle, that's it. That's all you're going to be able to do, honestly. And there's a bunch of people that have copied you over the years. And so there's a million different kinds of bandages on the show thing. So, honestly, it does give them an opportunity to do something different. And obviously they maybe had something in the hopper before this, and they decided to bring it out at this opportunistic time. Maybe you question the timing of it or whatever, but from a product development standpoint, it's probably pretty interesting, right? The data, I think, would be fascinating. Are you going to see more people buying the diverse shades? Would people really get into that? I don't know. I don't know if it would be or not. I think they're taking some. They're trying to put out an olive branch, and they just kind of got their hand bitten. Despite of it, no good deed goes unpunished, right? That kind of thing. So maybe their timing of coming out of, maybe it's just like too soon. They should have come out with it a little bit later. But it's interesting from a product development standpoint. It gives them something new to talk about that isn't like a licensed product, which is what they normally do. And lastly, should we talk about Lady Antebellum? So Grammy Award-winning country group Lady Antebellum is changing its name to Lady A, with members saying they are regretful and embarrassed for not taking into consideration the word's associations with slavery. It really, just so everybody knows what that is, because everybody from the South might not know what that is, but the antebellum style home is where they is what it's mean for, and antebellum means a war. It means before a war, and the term has been widely associated with pre-Civil War period when slavery was practiced. Now now you have to take a couple of really big jumps, right, to get there, to get to your black from antebellum. That's several giant size leaps that you have to go. I would say losing. I think artists are allowed to make choices about what they want to do, and the reason they chose the name is because it's an antebellum style house where they shot their first band photos. And I would say, look, if you guys want to associate it with the pre-Civil War period, that's your business. But this is our band name, and we chose it for this reason. It's our business. Kiss my butt. I don't know. That's what I would say, and I think I would say we didn't choose our band name to please you. That's not, bands choose their name because it means something to them, right? And they take us on a journey as an artist because their journey as an artist means something to us. If bands start, pandering to the crowd basically and saying, "Oh, well, you didn't like that song and you didn't like this," it's like, I don't know. You just got to respect artists that have enough integrity to say, "Look, we chose it. That's who we are. That's who we're gonna be. We're not gonna change ourselves to Lady A and hope that you don't associate it with Lady Antebellum," which nobody really knew what that meant anyway. I mean, I got to say, I had to do a few minutes of education to even explain it to you guys as to what the hell it even meant. And I guarantee you, until we did that, you have never thought once to yourself, antebellum. You probably thought, oh, South, the old South. I mean, maybe South, old South, and then you're done. And then you're like, what's the song? Is the music any? You've moved on, and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's who's winning and losing this week. Come on back in segment 3, and I'm going to give you some tips for your own marketing operations. See you in a few. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk and marketing talk. And I'm Scott, your host. We've been talking all day today about the order of marketing operations, why it's so important, how so many companies get it wrong. And in segment 3, this is education time, so we're going to give you some tips for your very own marketing operations, which will come as no surprise to you if you listen to segment 1. Tip number 1, always do messaging first. As much as I say that, I continuously run into companies in the marketplace that have designed something great. They've already built a mobile app. They already have a logo. They already have, a manifesto, and they haven't sat down and done any thinking about the customer, what they want, their needs, the little things that we like to call marketing. Tips for marketing. So always have always do your messaging first. You do it as early as you can. I've had people say, well, when should I do messaging? As soon as you can. As soon as humanly possible. As soon as humanly possible, sit down, start working on messaging. It is the foundation. It's like, what do you do first in a house? You dig, you pour the foundation. You dig, you pour the foundation. What do we do in marketing first? We dig, we pour the messaging foundation. That's what we do. As early as you can do it. You're not going to be able to build anything else until that's done, I guarantee you. It informs everything else that you do. Number 2, have a messaging document. Try to keep it to one page if you can. It's good to keep it simple. Caveman simple, we talked about, right? Have a messaging document. Make sure, I don't care if it's a brand script, if it's a message map, if it's a paper napkin that says this is our positioning statement, our brand's built on this emotion. Whatever you have that informs your messaging, make sure that you have that, accessible, and you can use it for the next step, which is going to be design. Tip number 3, make sure your messaging informs your design, impacts your design. They build on each other. If you're working with a designer that doesn't know how to do that, get rid of them. Bring in a designer that understands how to take the palette that we've created messaging-wise and create something amazing from that. I only work with designers that understand how messaging impacts design. I only work with designers that do that. If you're a graphic designer that likes to take your shot at designing and being an amateur messaging person, I'm not going to work with you, because I'm going to have to undo all of the amateur night stuff that you did, and fix it before we can get you back involved and get the design done. Okay. Really, really important. There is an order of operations. So very important. They build on each other. Number 4, if you run into a situation where marketing isn't working, it is probably the message. It is probably that foundational stuff. And that's a good opportunity to start over right there. You wouldn't believe how many websites I visit, and I can't tell what they do. I can't tell what space they're in. I can't tell why the customer would care. I can't tell, what problem they solve. I can't tell, any of these things. And some of these are like slick designed websites with aerial shots of, drone footage of video in the frames or whatever. And then I'm like, what the hell is this? What is this? Where are the words? Where are the words that explains what this is? And it's everywhere, folks. It's everywhere. It's probably on your website too, because your website hasn't been looked at in a long time. I look at websites for people too, by the way. If you have a website, email me at scott@robertsoncom, 2M's like communications.com, or Twitter @robertsoncom. DM me over there, or find me at facebook.com/robertsoncom, 2M's like communication. Find me there and send me, your URL. And I'll be happy to take a look at the website and I'll show you what's wrong. Here's what's wrong. I'll save you the trouble. The message is wrong. The message is probably not very good. The message probably needs to be looked at. It's probably not clear. It's probably not caveman simple. It's probably not any of those things. And I say that with, well, Scott, how do you know? You haven't even seen our website. Because I've seen, thousands of other websites. And so that it just rolls with that after a while. So again, tip number 4, if you run into a situation where marketing isn't working, it is probably the message. And like I said, what a great time to start over. I won't even take on a project with a client if we're not talking about messaging, because let's say I'm doing content marketing. Okay, Scott's doing the blog. He's going to be running the blog. He's going to be running the e-news. He's going to be running social media for us. And then day one of the assignment, I'm like, who are we? What problem do we solve? Where are those things that we need to create something that's going to be powerful for the brand? So again, message, really important. Took me a lot of years to learn that before. When I was first in PR at PR agencies, I didn't care that much about the message. I cared much more about, how we were going to strip all that marketing BS out of it, and how we were going to tell a story, for journalists that were going to help us get our assignment done, which was to get journalists to cover it. And so, we learned to be very, very neutral, very, almost dry kind of thing, just really kind of pull some of the excitement out of the copy. But since then, I've learned how to do both. I've learned that you want to have a strong marketing message. You still need to have a very, you can't, have, trumpets blazing and a full-on parade with elephants and everything when you're trying to send out a press release. Journalists will their sensors will go up and then just toss it in the trash. You can't, you still got to do PR, that way. But for everything else, marketing wise, you want to be clear. You want to be clear. You want to be simple. You want to tell what problems you're solving for people. Easy stuff. That's what I do for every one of my clients. We talked about Good Stuff Coffee. That's where we started. We started in a room asking questions, talking about messaging. T2H2O, we started in a room talking about, asking questions. Voco Pro, we sit in a room, we talk about messaging, we talk about what the story is. Every one of my clients, starts the same way. And that's why they're successful. That's why we have the results that we have, is because of that. Tip number 5, again, just work with designers who understand marketing's order of operations, messaging, design, collateral, so MDC, right? Not DC with no M, and not DMC, or not, although a fine rap group, Run DMC, but, not DMC, not CMD, not CDM, MDC, messaging, design, collateral. Messaging, design, collateral. That's what we want to be doing. And work with designers that understand it. Work with designers that when you tell them, we have a brand that's based on trust, that they understand that these are the colors that can, evoke that kind of trust in the audience, that this is the, the bedrocks that we want to use, visually to help, communicate that story, the entirety of that story. Work with only those designers. When you're interviewing designers, ask them questions like that. How do you work with the messaging? If we come up with messaging first, how do you work with that? That kind of thing. Really, really important. Really important. So what have we learned today, folks? We've learned that there is an order to our marketing madness. What is it? MDC, messaging, design, collateral. And that order is really, really important to follow. Can you get there some other way? It's possible. But in a world where companies waste a ton of time and money on marketing, wouldn't you rather just trust the process? It's going to work that way. I know I would. Well, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, and have yourself a great weekend. We'll see you back next week for another episode of May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk. Bye now.